Hi there, welcome to the September edition of Redden District Angling Association's Fisheries Feedback. We've got our usual mix of entertainment for you this month. We'll be looking at some of the fish that have been caught from Reading's waters. We'll be hearing a fishery report from Dell, find out what the fisheries team have been up to, and we'll be looking at fishing prospects for the coming weeks. So let's get on with it. Right, fisheries report. So Dell, autumn's here. What have you and Jim been up to?
Well, this time of the year we're just basically going around and giving things a final sort of haircut, if you like, in preparation for the winter really. This year we've had a few trees going over because it's been so dry, and then we had a little bit of wet and this, that and the other. Right. We've had a few trees and a few limbs and things like that coming down, so we've been sorting that out. And you know, the lake, giving the lakes a bit of an haircut. Some of the rivers a bit of an haircut. We've still got a couple to do that we'll go through, and just it makes our life a little bit easier come next spring, because it doesn't grow during the winter. So you know, it just makes life just a little bit easier.
Well, I'd say Callows and Wilmots are looking nice and tidy, so's Flint, but you did quite a bit of work over Pinchwood as well, didn't you?
Yeah, Pinchwood was one of the ones. Pinchwood gets a little bit neglected these days. So we went over there. Well, Jim went over there. I was away for a week, thrashing the water foam in Scotland, but that's another story. But yeah, so Jim had a big list of things to do, and one of them was go over Pinchwood and just give that a little bit of haircut, bit of trimming in some of the swims, and like I say, just trying to get everything sort of get a step ahead for next spring really.
Smashing. And can't help but notice the Thames is still like a canal, not flowing. Yeah. Kennet's low, Holybrook's low, water levels are low in the lake. Thames Water have just announced an application for a drought permit, which means taking more water out of the environment. I mean, how do you feel about all of this?
I mean, water this year has been our big issue, particularly sort of our smaller ponds. The bigger ponds, Farnham Flint, Engerfield, Whistling Mill, or they can cope. But the smaller ponds, the ones we put a hell of a lot of work into, i.e., Wilmots, Callows, Brownlee, they're struggling. Mm-hmm. They're small ponds. They're fairly shallow, so there isn't a lot of water to lose. So we've had pumps running where we're robbing Peter to pay Paul, and only today I had an email from the Environment Agency, and they're kicking in the West Berks groundwater scheme.
Right.
And that is sort of the second stage of the drought permit.
Right.
And essentially what they're going to be doing is they're taking water out of boreholes, which are deep into the aquifers. Mm-hmm. So again, like we're robbing Peter to pay Paul, that's what they're doing. So they'll be pumping water from deep under the ground, and they'll be topping the rivers up. So in the next sort of 3 to 4 weeks, you'll start seeing the river levels rising, which is great for us at the moment. Yeah, we need it.
And it'll improve the fishing for a bit.
Yeah, exactly. But the big danger with it is if we have another dry winter like we had last winter, those aquifers aren't going to recharge, and because they've taken more out of the aquifer than they did last year, we could potentially be in some serious problems next year. So, I mean, I would implore everybody that uses it, and we all use water, and we all use water far too much in this country. Just have a little bit, especially if you're a fisherman, and if, just have a little bit of a think about it, and, tell your friends, don't wash your car. You don't need to have a spangly car.
Oh, no one could ever accuse me of that.
Same as that. I think I wash the truck about 2 times a year. So, just have a little bit of a think about what it is that you're actually doing, And, the obvious thing, and you see it over social media all the time, the water companies don't fix the leaks on the mains and things like that. Well, that water that's coming out the mains, that stays in the system. That's going down drains, it's going into the ground, and it's eventually going back into the river. So it stays in the system. We've actually got to save water. We've got to stop using quite so much.
Well, that's a big issue, an issue for another day. It's something we're working on at the Angling Trust. We haven't built enough resilience in the water supply network in this country to cope with the populations we've got.
Yeah.
Also, we don't have enough resilience to cope with the pressures of climate change, because you know, we talk about it on these videos. We're not going with standard weather conditions now. We have periods of drought and we have periods of floods. I mean, 2 winters ago, everyone was moaning they couldn't get near the river because there wasn't enough water.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'll tell you what, mate, we need a winter as wet as the one we had 2 years ago, really, just to make sure that we got proper flows the following summer.
Yeah, I mean, we need sustained rain. You know, a big dump of rain like we've been getting, you know, in recent history is no good. We just need a little bit of rain for a long period, and hopefully, fingers crossed. But like I say, I think this is something that we're going to have to adapt to. As an angling organisation, we're going to have to start, you know, trying to put measures in place, buy more pumps, I like to try and head things off at the pass. I don't like to have the problem later on. I try and solve the problem before it's a problem.
Well, I mean, I absolutely take that point. I mean, one advantage I think we've got at Redden District, Odell, is, I mean, there are a lot of clubs that have only got, you know, a couple of ponds and 2 or 3 stretches of river. We have got such a big portfolio of water, however badly flooded the system gets. There's always somewhere to catch fish in this country. I mean, our canal stretches are fabulous. And of course, with the exchange ticket on the old Blackwater, that's another great little place when everywhere else is flooded. So our members will still have sport, even if we do have the wet winter that you and I want.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, we sort of pride ourselves in offering all things to all men, really, you know, and that's just a follow-on from that. You know, whenever we look at a venue to possibly take it over, you know, there's a certain criteria. Is it something we've already got? Yes. Well, we don't want it then. Is it something that's different? Yes, we'll have a look at it. You know, is it somewhere where we can fish predominantly in the winter as opposed to in the summer? Yes, we'll look at it. So they're the sort of questions we ask ourselves when we're looking for water. We don't just go around grabbing water because you just end up, you know, with just a huge pot of all the same, and nobody likes all the same. Well, that's really interesting, and I fingers crossed. Certainly wise words on water saving. Let's move on now and let's have a look at the submissions we've got for our monthly fish picture competition, and then we'll have a little chat about some of the rather nice fish that have been caught despite less than ideal conditions. Yeah. Well, Del, you know, that was an interesting month weather-wise. It started off with virtually a heat wave and then very quickly got into autumn towards the end of the month. So we had a whole variety of fishing, starting off with a detention carp and then moving on to some more of the river species. But the one I wanted to highlight from the gallery was Rob Walton's roach. I mean, that is a pristine roach from the lower river, and I don't know if that's evidence of the roach project working or whether Rob got lucky. Yeah, I mean, with a lot of things with fisheries, you know, you can never quantify what it is. You just do your best and hope for the best, you know. I'd like to think that it's one of mine and it's gone through my hands, but, you know, somehow I doubt it. But yeah, I mean, anyone that knows me, you know, grayling, seeing the grayling and the roach sort of starting to the first inklings of a little bit of a comeback. Yeah, I get all gooey about it, and roach for me are my favourite species. And you know, well done, Rob, and I will be round to find out where he fits.
I'm sure you will. The other one, we've got to give a mention to our bailiff and old friend Andy, not for catching a £42 carp. Lots of £40 carp come out of our waters.
Yeah,
but he caught it on tench gear.
Yeah. I mean, fair play, and it just goes to show that you don't need 3.5 pound test curve rods and huge, you know, tow rope and cast it to the horizon and all that. You can still catch them in sort of what would be considered old-fashioned ways.
Yeah, well, I mean, fair play to Andy. I mean, he makes out he doesn't like carp anymore, but I mean, I know he was chuffed with it. He never stopped talking about it.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a fisherman on the planet that if they caught that wouldn't be chuffed, you know. And no. Andy, I don't believe any of his old bluster at all. He had a smile on his face quietly. Just the amount of times he's looked at it when he's sat at home, laying in bed.
I could tell you that. Now, some interesting perch that have been coming out. I mean, we can't give him the prize because it wasn't from a Reading water, but Neil Hedger is one of our top predator anglers. Neil catches some fantastic perch and pike. That fish was from the Thames, part of the Thames anyone can fish, but £4.6, personal best perch. I mean, Neil is really racking up the species, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, Neil, you know, he won a cap last year. I think it was for pike last year, if I remember rightly. Yeah. He certainly catches his fair share. Yeah, you know, he certainly does catch his fair share. I mean, the only disappointing thing is, you know, the photos that he sends. He sends one in every other month. I haven't seen the cap yet.
No.
Whether he keeps it in his bag or not, I don't know, but he needs to stick it on his head. And his catch rates have got up even more.
I think a formal warning to Neil Hedger, wear the bloody cap. We didn't give it to you for fun.
Yeah.
The other one, Maris Ducek. Maris is a specialist for predator fishing. He, like a lot of lure anglers, measures them rather than weighs them. 48 centimetres, that's a personal best perch for Marius. That's got to be, I don't know, £4.5 pound plus. It's a hell of a beast, isn't it?
Certainly up there. And again, you know, Marius, he catches. I don't think there's a month goes by where he don't stick some photos in, you know, and onto Facebook and what have you. And he's getting very, very close to getting a cap.
Well, there you go. Keep going. So, last one to pull out was that barbel that Pete Smith had at 12.6. The thing about that fish is, I mean, look at the size of the paddle on it, and look at the fact that the belly hasn't fallen out. How big's that going to be come March?
That's a 14 pounder.
Well, that's what I reckon.
Yeah, all day long, 14 pound.
Nice to know those big ones around. So, that we've highlighted a few of the better pictures, but what's the one you want to give the prize to?
Well, for me, first barbel of his life, and it's a nice photo. And again, this is not about big fish; it's about nice photos, and it's always nice seeing, you know, young lads catching, you know, decent fish. And let's face it, you know, barbel aren't a difficult fish to catch, or are a difficult fish to catch. Sorry, and the fact that it's a small barbel as well, again, makes me go all mushy inside. So, Andy Gray, you've won yourself a cap and either some coarse fishing bits and pieces or some carp fishing bits and pieces. Just let us know what you want via Messenger and we'll make sure it goes into the hut for you.
Congratulations, Andy. You joined the Reading District Hall of Fame. Wear your cap with pride. Jim, thanks for joining us. We're a bit late this month, so although we look back at September, we've only got a couple of weeks left in October, so let's call it an autumn preview of fishing prospects. What would be the species you'd be targeting this time of year?
So definitely at the moment it's going to be the perch. I've seen lots on the social media pages, our pages and other pages, that there's a lot of big perch coming out in a minute. A lot of the things I've been seeing is sort of guys lure fishing and drop shotting, so I think at the moment where the rivers and the waters are still fairly warm, these perch are really active at the moment. They're seeking all the prey fish, so get on your toes and be wandering around. You can have a great day's perch fishing.
Kennet or Thames or both?
Definitely both. The Stamper perch in the Thames seems to be just that slightly bit bigger, but catching one out the Ken, it's a bit more special to me.
Well, that's your. I'm probably more biased towards the Thames, but yeah, both rivers are fantastic. Yeah. If people wanted to pick a still water for perch,
still water definitely it would be long water for me. I know it's done a good number of 4-pounders over the years. But it's the sort of place you don't want to just sit in a swim. You need to be finding the bait fish over there. The perch are going to be following them. And as these temperatures are dropping at the moment, they're going to get into smaller and smaller groups. So get on your toes and make sure you find them.
That's good advice. And what other species?
Definitely pike as well. Pike this time of year. The pike season just started now. I've seen a lot of guys out on our venues already and they've been catching well. So another venue for pike is Longwater again. It's got a good head of 20-pounders in there. But again, if you're not getting anything, move. You don't want to be sitting in a swim. If the fish aren't there, you're not going to catch them.
That's great. And finally, my winter favourite.
The roach.
Go on.
Yes. Again, lots of our river venues have got them. Often can be a great day for roach fishing up there. You'll catch lots of silvers up there, and especially at the moment where the rivers have still got that nice temperature to them, they've not sort of shoaled up too much. You can have a good day's fishing. Keep the feed going in though. You see a lot of people just sitting there feeding very little and often, but the fish are there, so you've got to keep the feed going in.
Well, that's great. Well, I like this time of year. I know some people moan about it.
Yeah.
They've got to put their thermals on, got to get a big coat out.
Thick
but
socks.
there's some great fish to be caught. And Jim, we really appreciate your advice. Thank you very much.
Good luck, guys.
Okay, so that's it for this month. The weather's on the turn. There's still plenty of good fish to be caught, as we've said. Enjoy yourself out there and tight lines.